Greetings. Today is another new day with Doc Ock at noon and 9. Coming at you live and direct one more time with a very new segment of Doc Ock at noon and 9. Proverb for today: events follow one another like days of the week. Events follow one another like days of the week. And let's see, that proverb is from, let me see. I marked it, but I didn't put the country that it's from. Nope, not there either. Huh? Okay, so not sure. Oh, here it is here. And that is from Tanganyika, the country formerly known as Tanganyika, now known as Tanzania. Tanzania. And the poem today is entitled Sundowning. So let's go ahead and see what that sundown is all about. And here we go. Sundowning. Clouds fall like splashed ink against the sky. Which is moving, the car or the world? The day cools, even refrigerates our thoughts. Our brains stop boiling. You descend upon me with the night chill, peripatetic and omni-dark. I drive one-handed. You match point with number on radio. Mumble celestial jargon in my ear and flip my fly zip back and forth. Thought I was driving a car. Maybe not. Radio, road hum, leering lights careen on, fender and forehead, face and foreskin, your eyes, spheres of fire. Do you work some African magic on me? Sundowning. I'm gonna have to talk to Mr. Eugene Redmond about that one. That one was kind of interesting. Took an unexpected turn there at the corner. Yeah, went all around the bush on me. Okay, but meanwhile, story for today, continuing on with the reflections on the life of Dr. Edward W. Crosby by himself, entitled Doing It the Hard Way, from his unpublished autobiography. Let's see what Dr. Crosby has to say today. Where are we at in this story? We know we were in Hiram last we looked. We were in Hiram, and we just finished with, where were we at here? We just finished talking about the Morrises. Since two Morrises signed the U.S. Constitution, I cannot say definitively which of the two was related to Mr. Morris. Whatever is the real case, MC told me about his relationship to one of the Morrises and showed Shirley and me antique silverware he had inherited from one of his historic family members. Shirley and I thought they were going to give that to us too, just as their daughter had done with the Blockflöte. During the conversation about his inheritance, MC mentioned he had inherited a large amount of money many years earlier, which had unfortunately been reported in the newspapers in Pennsylvania and included the fact he was at the time employed at a college somewhere in New England. This notoriety resulted in his receiving numerous marriage proposals, which he had to refuse. Good for him. since he was already happily married, and the women proposing marriage didn't really appeal to him, right? Later, he sought a new, what did it say? Later, he sought a new and unbroadcasted place of employment. I wondered then if he had found his hideaway at Hiram College. A sleepy town like that? Maybe so. That town was so small, they didn't even have a phone book. Well, they had a book. They gave it to you. It looked a lot like this one here, except smaller. It was smaller than this little book here, but the pages were just as blank. It just had lined pages in it, and you write in your own phone numbers, names, and addresses. My mother still has that book. She won't throw away anything. Later, see, but I didn't dare ask. He did not ask him, was Hiram College his hideaway? During our visit, he also recounted the time he had as a Quaker and member of the American Friends Service Committee worked in Russia during the 1920s and possibly longer, when Russia was struck by a very severe famine. This famine caused the starvation deaths of many Russian peasants. When the U.S. and other nations joined in to relieve the food shortages, the ravages suffered by the Russian peasants came to an end. The Russian famine took place in the early months of 1921 and lasted up to and through 1922. This famine was very severe and occurred in Bolshevik, that is, communist Russia. The famine killed an estimated 5 million or more Russians. It was the direct result of the economic dislocations that resulted during World War I and its continuing impact on the economy throughout the Russian Revolution of 1917 and the Russian Civil War that ended in 1922. This famine, the American Relief Administration, otherwise known as the ARA, which President Herbert Hoover had formed to help end the starvation of World War I, offered Vladimir Lenin assistance in 1919 if they allowed the United States to have full control over the Russian railway network and were allowed impartially to hand out food parcels to everyone who showed up. Of course, Lenin refused this request because it interfered with Russia's internal affairs in more than one way, apparently. The American Relief Administration, the ARA, therefore began relieving the famine in Poland in the winter of 1919 to 1920 at a conference in Geneva organized on August 15th by the International Committee of the Red Cross, the League of Red Cross Societies, and the International Committee of the organized on August 15th by the International Committee of the Red Cross, the League of Red Cross Societies, and the International Committee for Russian Relief, again demonstrated the what? Oh, I know. Again demonstrated the major participants were Hoover's American Relief Administration and other bodies, such as the American Friends Service Committee, an organization the Quakers administered. So, all I can tell, it appears as though I've read this upcoming section previously. but I'm going to go ahead and reread it just to put it into its proper context. On another occasion, this is he titles this chapter 5. On another occasional visit, Dr. Morris asked me if I would allow him to ask a good friend of his, a Dr. Berzel, who happened to be the chair of the German department at the University of Kansas, about my becoming a PhD candidate at the university in his department. I recognize his suggestion as more than just a nudge for me to go for an additional and terminal degree. I took his suggestion as a soft warning. If I didn't seek and receive a terminal degree, my tenure at Hiram could be cut short. There were other persons on Hiram's faculty who didn't possess a terminal degree. However, they were all white. I, being the odd man out, had to demonstrate I was more or less, at least as capable as they. The handwriting was now on the wall. I read the message and decided to act accordingly. Just as I was putting the finishing touches on my master's thesis, I applied for the prestigious Fulbright Fellowship to study for at least a year at Freiburg University in West Germany. I also backed up Dr. Morris's and Dr. Schroeder's suggestions by applying for a graduate assistantship in the University of Washington's German department to study for the PhD. Before long, I received notice. I had not won a Fulbright Fellowship. However, I was awarded a highly recognized fellowship from the Deutsche Akademische Austauschdienst, or the German Academic Exchange Service, and an assistantship from the University of Washington in Seattle. To top all these offers off, Dr. Berzel offered me not only admittance to his department, but also funding in the form of a lucrative National Defense Fellowship. Just before I learned of these acceptances, I had learned my application to Ohio State had been turned down. Even with Professor Schroeder's strong recommendation as an OSU alum. Of course, I wanted to study in Germany and in turn improve my fluency, but I decided to attend the UK instead, for it was closer to home. I didn't want to, didn't call for the possible outlay of funds I just didn't have, awarded more money to defray living and tuition costs, and more importantly, allowed me to stay home with Shirley and my 2-year-old son, Michael. In 1960, Hiram College granted me a 2-year leave of absence to attend the University of Kansas, where I earned the PhD in German literature and languages with a concentration in medieval history. In 1965, my dissertation should still reside in the University of Kansas Graduate School Library or in the library's archives in Lawrence, Kansas. Just before I left Kansas in 1962, after completing all coursework and the preliminary exams for the PhD, a fellow candidate in biology who was a graduate of Booker T. Washington's Tuskegee Institute suggested I seek a position teaching German at Tuskegee and offered to submit my name and resume. So I'm going to stop right here for a moment, and I'm just going to take a little pause here as I go and pick up something that I wasn't aware I was going to need, and I left on the other side of the room. One moment. So he talks about a copy of his dissertation still being resident at the University of Kansas, the possibility that it's still there, which is likely, but you know, the way these libraries are going these days, they may have put it in an off-site storage unit like they're doing at Kent State with pretty much everything. Okay, because everything's gone digital and they've just reorganized everything on these university campuses. But this is a copy of his dissertation, and I don't know why it's got all these papers stuck in here. Didn't realize all this stuff was in here. I'm going to take some of these out, make it a little easier, and I'm going to show you what this dissertation looked like. Because as it turned out, it was the largest dissertation, the longest dissertation ever written at the University of Kansas. So it consists of 2 volumes. And I'm going to put the 2 of them together so you can see how big they are together. Okay. These are the 2 volumes, 1 and 2. And the topic is Otto von Demeringen, a German version of Sir John Mandeville's Travels, written by Dr. Edward W. Crosby, 1965. Now, when he typed this, because you had to type them in those days, you only typed on one side of the paper. And here is what it would look like. You typed on one side of the page, but you did not type. You left the other side blank, right? The other thing that he had to do with this, because it was dealing with medieval German, is there were many parts of this dissertation where he actually had to use a India ink pen and write in Fraktur. And I'm looking to see if I could quickly find a section where he did that at. I'm not seeing it right here, but the typewriter that here, this is one here. Oh yeah, these are a couple here. So these pages here are actually photocopied. And this is the quality of photocopying back in the day. Obviously, he would have used the best quality available, but this is what photocopies used to look like, with this kind of gray background. The letters would be reversed, etc. And they called it a facsimile, not a Xerox. Okay, they were called a facsimile, just like we have fax machines some people still use today. Well, the original, the word fax comes from facsimile. Oh, and here goes his University of Kansas ID card. Here we go here. First and second scribe of manuscript E16. And these are handwriting samples from various manuscripts. So when you look at this, if you can actually read that, even if you could read German, which this is in German, so you're not going to be able to read it for the most part. It'd be very difficult to read it because of the way that it's written. That is not actually, I don't think that might be Fraktur, but I don't know if they call that Fraktur or not. This Fraktur is that old German style of writing. You still see it sometimes in terms of our fonts. You'll see something that'll look like it'll be a font that's imitating Fraktur. Okay. Now, this is all in this manuscript, and what the professors made him do, because a dissertation is not a functioning book. It's not a pleasure book. So they made him copy wholesale things out of other books. And this is an image that he had to include in his dissertation. I'm not really sure what that's supposed to represent, so don't ask me. I don't know. But now that we're looking at it, and I see that it's right here in the very beginning of volume 1 of his dissertation, I will go back and I'll look it up. and see what is that image supposed to represent. I've been seeing it around this house for quite a few years, but never really bothered to investigate it because it was just a very weird image, and I never took the time to investigate it. All right, here we go here. Okay, so here you see coats of arms that he had to put in here, and it looks like some of that writing that we were talking about earlier that he had to do with the India ink pen. So probably all of this here he did with the India ink pen, because there was no way to make a facsimile that would come out that good at that time. So if I'm not mistaken, all of this would have had to been done by hand, including drawing that coat of arms. Okay, so this is the nature of getting a dissertation in medieval German and being black, for sure, because they put in extra restrictions in terms of having him include all of these original texts that came from his references. And that's why his dissertation ended up being, let me see, I'll tell you in a minute exactly how many pages it was. It ended up being, let me see, 650. It ended up being 1,300 pages long. 1,300 pages long. So any of you that know Dr. Crosby know that he can be a little bit long-winded. Maybe that's where I get it from. But he also could be long written. So when he would go to write something, he'd go to write something. And it was liable to be on the long side as opposed to the short side. So, yeah, so these are so a couple of documents I just wanted to share with you, because even those people who have been to our house oftentimes did not see these particular documents. And so you wouldn't realize what he had to do. Oh, this is the other part here. This is the kind of paper that he had to type his original work up on. Okay. Yeah, this is the kind of paper. It's called onion skin. And it's got a, typically it will have a, what do you call that thing? A watermark inside of it. Okay. To identify who made the paper. It's very thin, very flimsy. And the typewriter that you had to use to type it was very rough. I mean, you had to punch the keys down with your fingers. I mean, it's almost like you needed to go and do those finger push-ups to have the strength to actually operate the typewriter that he was using. Definitely non-electric. And the paper was so thin, if you made a mistake, you had to use a physical eraser, and you're liable to rip the paper or tear the paper, put a hole in the paper, whatever. So I know I kind of went on and on about that, but that's what I didn't do the last time I read this section. I didn't really go into any kind of details about the dissertation, etc. So FYI, if you didn't know before, now you do know a little bit more than you did before. Meanwhile, we got to ski-daddle up on out of here because it's getting late and we got a date. We got something else we have to do at 1 o'clock. So we're going to go ahead and end this right here. This is Doc Ock at noon and 9 signing off. You know you the boss. Now it's time for y'all to pay the cost. If you're looking up on Facebook, go ahead and click that button down below. Drop a donation to us if you don't mind. If you're looking at us on YouTube, go to the website, www.blakfacts.org is where you find me. Peace out. We'll be black tonight at 9 o'clock. We're going to let it rock one more time for today. Peace out now.